Rightio, we are live. One of my clocks is a little bit out, Kath. Dr. Kath McIntosh joins me for our first Zoom. I better get rid of that one very, very quickly. But we're back live again for Breed to Succeed, episode 8. Off the back of a very successful one last week with Brett Coffey. Kath, they're going pretty good, these, aren't they?
Yeah, I've got big shoes to follow, Paul. It's a bit daunting, really. But no, they are. It's been terrific, and the following has been great. Today's topic is, it's just a little bit different, but it's actually I find it extremely interesting, and and it's quite amazing, really. So I look forward to getting into that today.
Absolutely, and I've been able to watch the video a couple of times, and. Yeah, we've already got .G's already online. She's already ready for a great session. So we're already firing the questions. That is one thing we want to do with these. We want people to be able to fire questions through. Again, with the Zoom ones, it gets a little bit tricky because Kath can't see if I'm talking once she's doing her PowerPoint and the like. So just if you do fire a question in, I definitely will get to it. It just might take me a minute or two to get back to it. We've got a little bit of housekeeping to do. Number one, we must always make sure that people are members of Harness Breeders Victoria. We want as many people as we can to become members. It's very cheap. We get new members every week. We've got a barrel at the end of the day for great prizes. And today I'll get onto our sponsors in a minute. But we want you to become a member. It's just $55. It's open to everyone from interstate. And that's the one thing I must say, Kath, about it. I'm sure the state breeding jurisdictions may not be as happy about it, but it's very, very well received from the interstate people going forward. And it's all there on the Harness Breeders website as well. So it's there, www.vicharnessbreeders.org.au, and then you follow that to your membership, and you'll be able to quite easily get involved there with that and sign up for great prizes. BARASTOC. We've got the winner coming up in a minute. We get a weekly winner, $350 worth of feed. This week we've got a prize coming from Harassed Trotters, which we'll get to in a second. But I think the other part of it is you become part of a group, and people, been talking to Jared Maloney and the likes during the week, there's plenty for people to get excited about, isn't there?
Oh yeah, and I think the more people we have involved all around Australia, I mean, we're all in the same industry, and we're all working towards the same goals. So the more people we've got involved and that we can represent as Harness Breeders Victoria, the more we can achieve and the better that we can do things for the industry.
Absolutely. Stallion Guide is also on that same website, vicharnessbreeders.org, and I think Desiree will put a link into that to go forward to that, and that's just a / I can't remember all of it, so hopefully Desiree will be watching. She will be, and she'll share the link to get to the Stallion Guide. That's awesome, and I think well done to everyone involved in that, who's got involved. It keeps stepping up every year, and it's so interactive, isn't it?
Yeah, the Stallion Guide, I mean, that's huge. 25 years this year that it's been put out, and this year it's online, it's interactive, as well as we've still got that physical hard copy in the mail. It's our breeding Bible, and everyone looks forward to it every year, and it's what we make all our decisions around for the season, and it's got all the information in there. It's a brilliant resource, and there's an awful lot of work that goes into it, and this year, there have been a few other difficulties along the way, and Desiree and Morris have done a terrific job putting that together and getting it sorted.
Absolutely, they have. Also, the track breed is available on there as well, so you can get involved with the track breed. There's plenty of great stories and great articles, and that alike, all on the same site. I've got a few things. That's been linked in already, so she's definitely onto us. Going on, we've got Murphy Murphing as well, so we've got a few of the regulars already tuned in, and they're excited about it. One thing I just wanted to quickly bring up, we've got to look after El Presidente, Kath. He's a bit precious when he wants to be Mr. Nick Hooper, and he put a little tweet out the other day just on his pedigrees. He looks everything up, but this one really tickled his fancy the other day, and it was, he went through a lot of it, but it was more the fact, I think, that this had, actually Marie might have brought the wrong one up for me. Oh no, Popular Arm and Gamelite are both in this horse's breeding. That was one of the things that tickled his fancy. Breeding is cool, and becoming part of the vicbreeders.org. These are just the sort of random things that you can see. He put this on Twitter. I don't know if he put it on the Facebook page as well, but he just likes his breeding, and to be able to see Gamelite and Popular Arm in the same line as Lanakai Beach. I don't actually know how it went. Probably should have done a little bit more homework on how it actually did happen to go on the night. But yeah, he's very involved in that, as are Brett. And one thing I have got planned post-COVID, when we can get out of this, I'm definitely going to put those two on a table with a couple of cameras and turn them loose and just see where they come up with their mad theories on breeding and the computers and what they can use. And I think it'll be very, very enjoyable, that's for sure. Sponsors, we have BARASTOC, Andrew Soper. He's always the man for this job. He comes in every week and points the finger at you like he wants you. That's what he's always after. So well done to Andrew. And then BARASTOC, they've already shared this page as well. So they are really getting behind this program, which is terrific to have both them and Kentucky Equine and everyone else that's been involved. And every week someone goes into the draw to win 10 bags of feed, kindly donated by BARASTOC to the value of $350. And this week's winner, I think, is a terrific one in Jenny Lewis from the Gippsland Training Centre. She asked a heap of questions, and she was worried because she was a little bit of a novice. That was what it was all about as far as breeding. So I'm sure, Jen, you'll be getting Andrew in touch with you, and I'd imagine he'll be making his way down there just to have a talk to you about a lot of his feeding programs as well with young horses. And where Jenny's terrific, Kath, she does a lot with the Gippsland Training Centre. So she actually trains the next generations of harness racing participants. So I think it's a great thing that she's been able to win that prize. And well done to BARASTOC as well for coming in. And already on Twitter today, I saw Steve Johnson. He posted a photo of all his bags as well. It's a little bit of a tradition that people have been able to share their pictures. Tracy Commodore, I've actually got her name right today too. She's come on board, Kath. She's watching as well, so which is good. I apologise to Tracy and Mark. I get the name wrong all the time, which is not hard for me. So they're from Benstud, obviously. They've got a fair bit going on, I would imagine. Like a few of the breeders, Kath, you'd have a fair bit going on at the minute? Or almost?
Yeah, we have heaps. It's 3 mares out there with foal arms on, and it's feeling very real this season, where it's all about the kick into gear, and there goes my life for the next 4 or 5 months.
We'll get on today's sponsor, and I'll give them a little bit of a wrap, but this is sort of a lead in. It was good during the week. Social media was abuzz with all the shuttle stallions that people weren't sure whether they're going to come or not with COVID-19 all arriving on site. You guys did a publication. Alabar did a few things as well. People were putting it out there, which was really, really good, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's great. All the boys are finally on farm and settled in, and yeah, it's good actually, because sometimes they arrive a bit later on in the month and they don't have as long to settle in, but got a good couple of weeks to settle in now before we start getting into the collection. Absolutely,
and with people putting posters up, there was no one else putting up more posters. I've just got to fix one thing up very quickly. Then Harass the Trotters, Bianca Brio over there at Ballarat, they were putting heaps of photos. They've had quite a few of their stallions arrive on site as well, and they're today's sponsor. So this is their website. I tell you, they've got a great website, Kath. You can just go to it, Harass the Trotters, and everything will come up exactly as it's spelt. It's the only website that is there. Talking to Louise just before, there's a huge announcement going to happen tomorrow about 3 o'clock to 3:30. So go to their website. That's the whole idea of what they're trying to achieve. So they want people to go to the website and log on and have a look at some of these big announcements. All the contact details are there for anyone. Louise was just saying to me, Kath, there before, that they've got a great initiative that if you take a frozen semen stay-in this year, you'll be able to get into Use to Me for $1,000. So it's not necessarily a 2-for-1. I think he stands for 2,500, and you'll be able to go to him for $1,000, which is a great initiative. Used to Me, super quality stay-in, and he actually left another winner at Ballarat just the other day, a young 2-year-old trotter for Michael Bellman, so which was really, really good. Today's prize, though, at the end of it, we'll draw a lucky Harness Breeders member out of the draw, and they'll win a $250 off any stallion. So that can be off any of their stallions on their list, frozen or used to me as well. So well done to Pat Driscoll and everyone there at BARASTOC Trotters for getting behind us and supporting harness breeders, that's for sure. So we'll get back to them at the end of the show. There's no doubt about that at all. So today, Kath, we've got a different one, I suppose. I'm pretty sure I've gone through everything going forward. We've had a few things going through. Actually, Tracy Commodore got in there. Thanks, Kath, for introducing us to the boys on Friday. So you must have had Tracy on farm, did you, the other day?
Yeah, we've had they come and had a look at all the boys, and we've had a number of people come through and look at them. So yeah, anyone's welcome anytime. To have a look at them while they still can, and the boys are pretty pleased to show themselves off. But hopefully we'll have something a bit more interactive to show everyone who can't physically visit in the near future.
Absolutely. Now, it turns out Lanakari Beach actually did win at Penrith and went 156. Nick Cooper, great to see the president is watching. I've got a lot of people watching us. We've got a few things coming forward too in this sort of position. Hopefully, Kath, we might be able to do some live stadium parades or the likes going forward for people that can't get out there. It is trying times at the minute with COVID-19, but we've got a few things on the go, that's for sure, haven't we?
Yeah, looking forward to it in the next couple of weeks. We'll organise something.
Absolutely. I was just trying to find, there was another message there and I've lost it, but it'll be there. It's there for everyone to read. Okay, so today's topic it's a very different one in a way, and you've got a PowerPoint display, and then we've also got a video afterwards. And as I said to people, fire your questions in, please. We want questions, we want interaction. There's no worries there at all, but probably for the next stage of it, it's a bit hard because one, Kath won't be able to see if I'm talking, so I won't go yellow. Kath won't be able to get to see my screen try and come up. So we'll just go through basically Kath's PowerPoint, and then we've got about a 5-minute video which you'll be able to talk over, Kath, and if I can get in and ask a question over the top of it, we will. But we'll just explain it, and then post the video, we'll definitely come back, and there'll be plenty of time for questions. And I'm sure a lot of people will be very intrigued by it, that's for sure. So you can share your screen anytime you want, Kath. I'm ready to go. And
so I just reiterate, we're talking about basically dummy foals today, and I'll just share this screen here now. But basically, we will go through just a little bit of information, and then I've got a video goes for about 5 minutes, and we'll watch that, and then we can sort of have a bit of a summary towards the end. So, neonatal maladjustment syndrome is the great long term for the topic today. It's a really interesting topic. I'm sure if we were actually having a physical roadshow seminar like we'd originally intended, that I could ask most people, to put up their hand if they've heard of a dummy foal or perhaps had one, and I'm sure most people would put their hands up into of having experience with a dummy foal, or at least have heard of it. But actually, what is neonatal maladjustment syndrome, or dummy foal, or various other things that it can be called? It's essentially foals that they initially appear normal when they're born, but after a few hours you realise that they're not at the udder, they're not suckling, they actually don't have a suckle reflex, and they're also just wandering around aimlessly. They do not have any sort of affinity for the mare. They're not interested in the mare. There's no, they're detached. And sometimes they can actually even, head press against objects, whether it's a stool or a fence post, those type of things. And they can appear dull. And also the reverse of that, they can appear quite hyper excitable. So, you touch them and they're extremely reactive. They flail their legs around, they throw themselves around, and are, quite overreactive. So, and the other side of it is that they can be quite dull. and it can occur in sort of 3 to 5% of foals, which is a fair percentage of foals that that you see it. And we see a number of cases throughout the season each year. And it's something that's been around for a long time. It's always been a puzzle as to why it happens. And the thing about these foals that is they eventually come good. And in fact, more than 80% of them, just suddenly are normal. So it's always thought to have been due to the fact that a mare has had trouble when she's been foaling, and particularly associated with, decreased oxygen available when the foal's been born, which could come about from premature placental separation. So, a red bag type scenario. It could also be associated with placentitis. But the interesting thing about this condition is that it can be associated with what appears to be an absolutely normal birth process. So that's where, things don't quite add up at all in this scenario. So when they're like this, the biggest thing is that they don't have a suckle reflex. So if they're not sucking off the mare, then they're not getting adequate colostrum. If they don't get colostrum, then they don't get the immunity that they need. So a lot of the times these foals, because they're up and about and moving around, it's often assumed that they are on the suck and going okay until they get progressively weaker and dehydrated, in which case they usually get even more disorientated, and they end up in this type of scenario where we've got a stomach tube, we've got left in, perhaps they're on some additional fluids as well, and they're under a fair bit of intensive care to sort of, replace all the deficits because they haven't been suckling, and get them up and about again. And we've all probably seen this scenario and been frustrated where we're trying to get these foals on the suck. They're just so close, and you think they're going to suck, and they never do, and it just does your head in, really. I usually just, if they're not suckling, I just go, right, let's tube them, get that colostrum into them. At least it gives them some energy, helps boost their immunity as well. In the past, we've battled on with these foals for days, and, it can be 1 day, 2 day, or it could even be up to 10 days, in which case these foals during this time, they need to be fed milk through the tube every 2 hours, which means you're also milking the mare every 2 hours. If they, and in a lot of the cases, haven't received adequate colostrum and got adequate immunity, they're also given plasma. And the plasma replaces what they didn't get in the colostrum. But ultimately, it's extremely time consuming, it's costly, it's labour intensive, and it's very, very tiring for everyone involved. So, and the other side of it is, sometimes they may have an underlying infection, so they've got to be on antibiotics. But it also might be that because they're weaker, they haven't received that adequate colostrum, they're also far more susceptible to developing an infection and other issues, particularly if they get so weak that they're laying down a lot. But as I said before, with all this, once they've got through it all, these foals do make a remarkable recovery, and you sort of walk out there to feed them, and all of a sudden they're sucking off the mare, and it's like nothing ever happened. So this brings me to Dr. John Madigan, who is a vet from the University of California, Davis, and he has been able to, and some of the other researchers at UC Davis have been able to enlighten us a little bit as to why dummy foals occur, and also have provided us with a very useful and easy tool to help manage these foals and get a better and faster outcome. It's just amazing. We had a case in the clinic last year, and we were able to use this technique, and it was just astounding, the results. So I'll walk through what he just discovered and what it means. So what he and some of the researchers at UC Davis discovered was that there was some similarities between dummy foals and autism in children. Now, this is really interesting and fascinating that these guys have made this connection, and largely that connection is around the detachment of the foals to the mares. And this detachment is sort of a classic behaviour of children with autism. So where did they go from there? So rightly so, Dr. John Madigan has been quoted as saying that foals do not gallop in the uterus, which is pretty obvious, isn't it? They're just kicking back in there for 11 months and a week. You know, they move around a little bit, give the odd kick, but ultimately they are, you know, just in a relaxed mode, sort of almost half sedated. Yet when they are born, they are geared to hit the ground running, basically. They need to be up and ready to go. In the wild, they would be preyed upon by other animals and hunted. So that mechanism has to be that they are up and ready to go. So why is it that in some foals this happens and in others you get these dummy foals? So what they found was that in children with autism who show this similar detachment is that there's an increased presence of what were called neurosteroids. They are naturally produced chemicals that act on the brain, and in foals that are unborn, so they're still in the uterus, they are very high levels of this in the bloodstream, and this has a sedative effect on the foals, which explains why they are just kicking back and relaxed in that uterus. Now, when they are born, the healthy newborn foals have really low levels of this neurosteroid, but those that have this maladjustment syndrome, or the dummy foals, those levels continue to rise. So this was, some sort of fascinating connection they've made there between us as humans and these foals. So then you think, well, how is that applied? So what is this biomechanical switch? What is it that happens to these foals going from the uterus to the outside world that stimulates them to be up and ready to go and not in this sleepy state? So Dr. Madigan, in his wisdom, thought that it must be due to the pressures of the foal, on the foal during birth as it goes through the birth canal. So a typical foal, as it's being born, is, basically squeezed through that pelvic canal, for about 20 minutes during that second stage of labour. It can be a little bit longer as well, but ultimately they have this pressure on them. So somehow, and he, hats off to him, he just must be the most incredibly intelligent and creative individual. He developed a technique where he places ropes around the chest of the foal, and it squeezes, you pull it tight, and it squeezes the foal until they and basically go from standing to laying down, as you can see in this photo. So we'll play a video now on YouTube. Paul, if you want to run that. Sorry?
No, you're right, it's going. I was just telling you it's going. The video's up.
Okay, so it's going now. So this video was actually taken in Australia. This video, it's in the Adelaide Plains Vet Clinic. There's a number of videos on YouTube that you can watch looking at this technique in dummy foals, and basically you can see that this foal is, just wandering aimlessly around the box, just really got not much idea of what's happening in the world, and not bright and alert and spunky like they should be, and it goes through what they do to with this Madigan foal squeeze. So I'll let you watch that through.
There's a little bit of audio for this, Kath, but there is not a lot to it. But it's just about 5 minutes. We cut it a little bit short, but for people to be able to get the full understanding, we wanted to be able to leave so you can see the foal. So it's just, at the minute, just still wandering around. It's a bit hard this because Kath can't see where I'm up to with the video, but just wandering around the box, just looking down at the shavings and the wall. And the mare's not really interested either, Kath, which is a bit strange.
Yeah, there's no, and this is classic, there's just no connection between the mare and the foal, because even though the mare may have tried, the foal just doesn't give her any love back, essentially. And sometimes the foals can be even over.
She's showing an interest.
To a touch or a sniff from the mare, out in the paddock and sort of, scuttle away. So, you do get this detachment, and this is where foals can also get themselves into trouble and injured, in this state, because they can wander into fences away from the mare, whereas normally the mare will keep them safe.
Now the lady, she just tried to put the foal. Actually, Kath, get off the share screen too, if you wouldn't mind. Go back to the original screen. But she tried to get the foal to suckle on the mare there before, and it didn't. We've actually got the 20 minutes, just so you're aware. So 20 minutes of squeezing with the ropes. But then they put it on a bottle as well, just to kind of drink. But now the foal's laying down and put the rope attached. Just got one leg moving, but they go into a very sedate manner, don't they? The way they just lay there on the ground with these ropes, and it doesn't appear to be and a heap of pressure on them.
No, so they literally go into a sleep. They're not sedated or anything like that for the entire 20 minutes. They just go.
Okay, it's been 20 minutes. You want to take that off?
And it's just incredible that the pressure actually even induces that to start with.
Yeah, and here we can see the ladies taking the ropes off the foal, and it's still basically, if you hadn't seen this video, you'd be a bit worried, because the foal's not moving. I mean, most of the ropes are undone. I think here in a minute, unfortunately, the clip will get him underneath the belly, but other than that, like, the foal is very non-responsive even once those ropes come off.
Yeah, so it takes, depending on how dummy they are, so dummy foals can be up and about and wandering like this, or they can be not able to get up as another complication. So, but usually, with sort of 5 to 10 minutes, they have an improvement, and then, a more gradual improvement over the next couple of hours.
Well, this foal now, so it's we've had a few questions come in, and we will definitely get to those questions. But they've then just let the foal wander off. Now it's just coming up behind the mum. Mum's still not overly that fussed at all, so I mean, she must be a good mum in that sense. But it doesn't take a long time before the foal goes into the right direction, I suppose, and things start to move in the right way.
Yeah, you'll see shortly how it, it takes the sort of, watch for a little while, but then after sort of, I think 5 or 10 minutes, it's actually on the suck.
Yeah. As I said, this is a bit tricky, this one, because I've uploaded the video, so Kath doesn't know where the video's up to, but the foal's about to get on the suckle.
Yeah.
From what I remember, because people may not be aware that Facebook's slightly behind, and so is YouTube, depending on which one you're watching it on. You can watch it on both. But so they've just come up now that 5 minutes later, and the foal is on the suck, and it's having a great suck now, isn't it? Like, it's once it gets on, it's very happy little foal.
Yeah, and you can get the foal every 2 hours all you like, but ultimately, when they are sucking off the mare themselves, it is a rapid transformation into a healthy, vibrant foal.
Clearly, so now the videos are up, and he actually just took a dive in the shavings just then. But I think that's a pretty happy thing when you saw how low key he was. But that was 7 hours after being on the drink, and they're not having to go back in and out. And then this next video here now is 36 hours later, and I would be a bit more worried here because there's a bit of asphalt and that around where he is if he took a dive like he did there before. On the ground, but we're just so you're aware, Kath, we're back off that video. The video has actually finished now, but yeah, that 36 hours he was jumping around and really, really happy little foal, wasn't he?
Yeah, and so last year we actually had a mare. It was a lovely little mare who, unfortunately, in 2018 lost her foal just because it was a extremely bad male presentation. So anyway, she started foaling at 10 o'clock in the morning here at the clinic, and I was a bit anxious because of what happened the year before. anyway, it was a completely normal foaling. She delivered it, just as you would textbook, basically. And anyway, a couple of hours later, the foal still wasn't on his feet, as you would expect. Should be up and on the suck. And this foal, he couldn't even keep himself sitting up. He was just literally flopping around like a dead fish. And he, you put him, sit him up, and then he just sort of headed flop over and he'd back onto the ground again. And if you physically lifted him up and tried to stand him, his legs were all stiff and just flailed around, and he had no idea what was going on, or the lights were on but nobody was home sort of scenario. So anyway, we took him up, milked the mare, tubed him with the colostrum, and then we did this Madigan foal squeeze on him. This is the first case that we'd done with that, and we put the ropes on, and he was just out to it for 20 minutes, just completely sound asleep. And when we took the ropes off, this foal went from not being able to sit up at all, and even when supported, he just want to flop over, to just sitting up on his own. He's whinnied at the mare, give him a little scratch on the bum, and he was trying to stand up, all the normal reflexes and responses that you'd expect from a foal. And we were just staggered. Like, it was just an amazing transformation. The next few hours after that, he was able to feed off the mare with assistance. Like, we had to just help him balance up a little bit, but he actually had that suckle reflex and could feed off her. And by 6 hours later, he could get up and about completely unassisted and suck off the mare. So, for us and the client, like, it was just a massive relief. There's an enormous amount of time and labour and cost saved. And the other side of it is that because they're not rolling around and down, he's less likely to get sick. This foal hasn't missed a beat since. Historically, I can think of a whole heap of dummy foals that we spend hours and hours with, and they would, suddenly turn around and be fine, and they haven't missed a beat in their life as an athlete. There are no long-term effects at all. It's just that biomechanical switch just didn't get switched during the, birthing, and now they're up and about. So, I can only say to people, if you see these type of foals, don't despair. Don't say that they're not viable, or don't give them a go, because yes, they used to be painful and a lot of work, and but now there's this solution. Anyone can do it, but talk to you about it, or give us a call if you want to have a chat about it and how to do it. There's plenty of videos on YouTube to watch, but it's just fascinating. It is absolutely fascinating, this whole the transformation, and also when you think back to these gentlemen who have come up with this idea that this would somehow work, and this connection between the autism in kids, and you just think, what are they going to come up with in the future? Like, it's it's really exciting.
There's a lot of lines. One thing, when I was listening to you talk there before, Marie will tell me off this, but when you're trying to get them to suckle, I don't know, Marie, when we have that issue, she's quite often trying to encourage, like, you do strange things when you're trying to get them to actually go in and physically suckle on the, don't you? And you're giggling because I'm sure you've done the same thing. It's quite a frustrating time just waiting for these foals to just do the simplest task. What looks the simplest task anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's just so infuriating. They just don't get it, and then to think that suddenly they do, after 3 or 4 days or whatever it's been, they just suddenly get it, and you just think, why did you get that to start with? But now we understand with these neurosteroids and how they work on the brain that they just can't. The brain's being told not to do it. So, and now that we've got that switch that we can switch them back on, then there's no need for so many sleepless nights, and also these foals are viable. They can live, and they can be strong, and they can be athletes.
Absolutely. Now, G's asked a question. There's a few other people. I'm just going to get to Dot's now because it's at the bottom of my page. Should a vet be called, and it's a little bit back onto what you're doing, to perform the Madigan squeeze, or is it safe for a breeder to do so? And just a little bit further to that, is it a little bit nerve-wracking at times when you answer it? I would imagine it is potentially a bit nerve-wracking the first time you probably perform it.
Yeah, it is. Getting the ropes positioned right and making sure, because one of the ropes does go around the base of the neck and at the chest there, that you're not putting pressure on the windpipe and those sorts of things. So yeah, it's probably worth getting a vet in for that reason, but also, these foals, depending on what stage they're identified, they may need to be rehydrated before you do this. They may need testing to see if they've got enough immunity. They may need, to the mare milked and stomach tubed, because there's no point if they're dehydrated and weak doing this and expecting them to jump to their feet. The other side of it too is just recognising that, is there an underlying issue as well as the neonatal maladjustment? Are they septic as well, or is there some other potential complication that may minimise the chance of this procedure being successful later on? So it's worth getting them looked at.
Is there an ideal time frame when you should do it? Like, I mean, they say you want your mare's foal on the suck within 2 hours. I think I might get in trouble if that's wrong, but roughly that 2 hours after they're foaling, if they can start suckling, then's the ideal time. Is there an ideal time to start the Madigan technique, or is it just one of those things that if it's a last resort?
Yeah, you sort of got to take each foal on each case. So just because it's not on its feet and suckling at 2 hours doesn't mean you jump in and do this. It may be that particularly some of the standard-bred foals, they are so big and their legs are so wonky that often they just have a bit of trouble coordinating themselves to get on the suck. So, you've got to give them a chance to do that. And, this is a particular case identifying, exactly what's going on. So yeah, you don't rush in and do it as the first avenue. It's got to make an assessment of the foal, and often it is 6, 8, 10, 24 hours later, sometimes before that it's realised that there's an issue with the foal, and that maybe it has got its head in and around the udder, but it actually isn't sucking off the udder. So it takes a little while sometimes for it to be identified.
Very good. If I look like I'm picking the computer up and doing a bolter in a minute, I am, because it's starting to rain here and I am outside. So if it looks like I'm running through the house, yep, that's exactly what is going on. That was not that question. I had a couple of us. Just give me one sec, Kath. It is Nellie Melba, who has given us a real name. You don't have to keep giving it to us, Nellie. We know who you are now. She had this to a horse, Tyrani, I think is the name. Tranny of 4, I think is the name. Well, actually, horse's name, sorry. Nellie lost him, pulled through, went on to win races. So I think she would be pretty happy if the Madigan had been around. But that's a common thing, isn't it, that foals nearly die through being dummy foals?
Yeah. And I think even the ones we do get onto early, because of the sheer volume of workload that is required to do it properly, it often isn't done. So this does shortcut it a lot, and it also minimises other complications like that they can potentially have, if they're down a lot or they're weak because they're not getting enough milk, all those sorts of things. So they, like I said, historically we've had, I can think of a whole host of foals that have had this, and then they've gone through sales, they've gone to races, they've performed at elite levels, and it's not a problem. And now, we understand why with those neurosteroids, just, they are normal. They're just basically under the influence of a drug. So they can't function properly. And when they can, they're completely normal.
Justin says here, so it's a pseudonym I would imagine, but thanks to Kath. Yeah, thanks to Kath for such great care of Danny. So I'm tipping that's a foal that you were talking about. We're relieved that he recovered so well after using the technique. So I'm happy for her to stay anonymous. There's no problems there. We don't need to know the file or anything else like that. But that's just great that, one, she's watching the show, and good feedback is always what we're after. There was another question here. Maggie Smith, with the Madigan foal squeeze, what is the success rate? Is there a measure on the success rate, or I know quite a few people that have used it, but is there a measure at all?
No, not that we know of. There's a lot more research going on internationally to work out exactly, how successful and the types of situations that it's been done in. But from our experience, it's 100% successful. And this was on a foal who is far more severe than that one that was shown in the video. And there are a lot of YouTube videos out there, and a lot of those foals are up on their feet and walking around. Whereas this little guy that we had last year, he literally was just flopping around like a dead fish. And I was, just beside myself with, what to do with him. And it was just incredible, the outcome. And I think the result rate or success rate is also dependent on recognising if there's any other underlying issues as well. So, if the foal is born with an infection on board, so it's septic, that will compromise the result as well, or it will just require additional treatment. But just recognising that, anything else that may be hindering the foal is important. But from anecdotal experience, Australia-wide and internationally, it's been a resounding success.
I reckon it's huge. And Tracy Commodore was on there before I spoke to Craig Judd. Might have been longer ago than I thought, but he was speaking so glowing of it. It was probably 6 months ago I was talking to him. They used it on one, he'd never seen it, I think, before done, and he couldn't believe the results as well. So that's two people I know anyway that speak highly. But then we've also had Justin come in as well and goes from there. So and even Sue Markle's joined in. We've had 5-6 success rates with this, 5 or 6 successes with this technique. So so that's really, really good. .G wrote, can this issue occur every pregnancy with the same mares? Is it a common occurrence, or is it just potentially just a one-off?
Yeah, not necessarily. I can think of the mares that we've had foals with that issue before, and we haven't had the same issue year after year. It's just been a one-off. Now, why that is the case, I don't know. Whether it's to do with positioning when it's born or what it is, but definitely just because they've done it once, definitely haven't seen a pattern of it recurring. And some of these mares that we've had foal down have been here for probably 8 or 9 years, and if they've had one, they certainly haven't gone on to have any others.
Is there any research into why it actually happens? I would imagine there is, but is there any light at the end of the tunnel, I suppose?
No, not as yet, but I'm sure they'll continue to make connections around what's going on, and maybe there'll be some other way we can prevent it in delivery. I mean, originally they came around to the idea that it was to do with delivery, because a high incidence of dummy foals were seen in mares that had caesareans. And so obviously with a caesarean, they don't go through the birth canal, and they're born at dummy. So that's where I think they made the connection that perhaps there's something in that pathway through the canal that triggers that biomechanical switch. So that's how they come around to developing that sort of theory. Now, how they then made the leap to this rope technique, I don't know, but hats off to them.
It is strange how some people think, that's for sure, and come up with some of these ideas. You got to marvel at it. We've got no extra questions just at the minute. We've had a heap of people tune in, and our numbers are really, really good. So I mean, if you're sitting there, don't be scared to ask a question. That's the idea. One lucky contestant today, or unlucky contestant, one lucky person. They're not a contestant at all. It's not a game show, but a person that's happy to fire in a question is going to win 10 bags of feed donated by BARASTOC. We're going to do a members draw in a minute as well. So please, there's no silly questions. As many questions as we can have fired in, the better. It's a great opportunity to talk to Kath McIntosh. I mean, you're not only a vet, but you're putting a lot into the industry, Kath, through both your stud in what you're doing, plus buying more property. You've got a lot going on. So I think you've got the harness racing interest at heart as well, and I think that's something, as have everyone. Like, I mean, Brett Coffey last week gives up his Sunday instead of watching Carlton get beat by a measly point. of all things, with his wife, who barracks for West Coast. He came and gave the show. I think everyone's giving up their time, and it's really good. And just off the back, even last night, of watching a horse like Ride High go around, and the announcement of Alabar purchasing him for large sum of money. We're not here to say how much money it is or anything else like that. Just as he stays in Australia and we don't lose him to America, I think it's a really exciting time to be a part of the breeding industry in harness racing, I think, anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're all in it because we love it. Like, I mean, I love my job as a vet. You know, I wouldn't do anything else. But the fact that then, you know, have so much to do with the harness racing industry is because I love that too. So, and I think every one of the breeders out there, you know, they love their horses. They, you know, whether they breed them or race them or what they do, you know, it's just a genuine love of the industry. And so we're all in the same boat and rowing towards the one destination. So, I think it's great. And, you know, this session today is certainly not a long, comprehensive, you know, full of information, but it's just a really interesting topic and, just something that make, you know, a few more people aware of, and it might lead to, you know, more foals, you know, surviving that transition from birth to being a normal foal.
Absolutely. Now we've got to look after I've got to do about 3 more things actually before we get to it, in case we get there. Our record. So Sue Michaels put here. Our records show that we find it happens. Unfortunately, it just went. Kath, give me 1 second. The weather gods aren't being kind to me again.
Yeah, I saw that there.
Where it happens more large colts.
Happens more in large colts than fillies.
Yep. So that's.
And is there any research to support that? Well, at the moment there isn't, but as a general rule, always find that the colts are dumber than the fillies.
Hey!
And I don't mean
you and Sue got together. I know you did. Sue's been set up here. I got no doubt about that at all.
But yeah, you know, they're just bigger and dumber. But not necessarily dummy foals. I think it just takes them a lot more to get going, and their legs. But yeah, at the moment there's no real data to suggest that it's more common in colts than fillies. But maybe that's something that we could all pull together if people keep records as the season goes by. Then more than happy to collect some of that information and see if it has something useful in the end of it. So.
Absolutely. Murphing. Oh, so sorry, she replied to Sue, so that's okay. Murphing's having a conversation with Sue, so we'll let that one go because it didn't make a lot of sense to me, but now I understand it, so I'm sure Sue will get back to it. But it's just she was wondering about the percentages, but I'm sure Sue will answer that one. Just it's in relation to their farm. Kath, one of our main sponsors that we have to look after, and I hope everyone can still hear me because the rain is starting to come down outside, that's for sure, is Harness Racing Victoria. And they've got a new initiative coming up for breeders. This is more along the lines of the bigger breeders and being able to get some packages out there. And this closes on the 18th, which is actually Tuesday, so we want to get it out. But it's called The Barn. And it's basically packed by Harness Racing Victoria. The Barn, exciting opportunity that empowers, invests in, and opens doors for breeders. So it's a new initiative, which is great with what they're doing. We appreciate everything that they are doing, especially with us here, and with these sort of initiatives coming up. And they've got an early bird special as well, which is a 30% off if you book before the August 18 deadline. So. If you're interested at all in that, get in touch with Bianca Walker at bwalker at hrv.org.au. So make sure you get involved in that. But love the fact that HRV are looking outside and doing things a little bit differently as well, which is really, really good.
The barn is part of the trots.com website, so it's an area where there'll be information, regular updates on what's happening in the breeding world. So, whether it's a new stowing coming out or it's something about pedigrees, or it's the idea is that it'll be the go-to spot for anyone in the breeding industry. And, you know, for information, the latest news, all that, just a valuable resource. And I mean, these types of Breed to Succeed seminars can be uploaded and put on there as well. You know, so that it's just a central point that just has a breeding focus. So I think that's really exciting that they're, you know, putting such a focus on the breeding industry.
Absolutely. What they did with SEN and all the rest was really good. Anyone wondering what I'm doing? I'm serious about this rain, unfortunately. I've had to move a few things just then. It's starting to take a toll. We've only got 2 more episodes as planned coming up with this series, but next weekend I'm catching up with Dr. Sarah Gray, and we've got to just sort out whether I'm going to be on farm for that as well. But just the importance of foaling down and dotting a lot of, crossing a lot of T's and I's, or I forget the way the saying actually goes, Kath. You'll probably tell me off for it, but it'll be a comprehensive thing. And you know, well done to, it's sponsored there by Yabby Dam Farms, which is also BARASTOC Trotter. So that'll be actually very, very good and informative. And then I'm back with you the week after, which will be our last week, getting a positive test and what it means. And I would imagine, I might be wrong, but that's going to be pretty far-reaching. We're going to be going over a lot of different topics as well as getting a positive test.
Yeah, so I think the last week will be still a little bit, we'll just decide exactly the topic there. But I was just looking, Jeff Milne had a question about where she had a mare that had both foals, both colts had to have plasma, and the last foal had to have 2 doses of plasma. So I guess in that sort of situation, there's probably a good case for getting some frozen colostrum to give to those foals or tube feeding them earlier, because either maybe the mare's colostrum isn't good enough, or if they're not getting up and getting on the suck quick enough, then you can even milk the mare and tube them with her colostrum straight away. And that is a much more effective and cost-effective way to ensure it gets its immunity and not have to rely on the plasma. Because either, you know, maybe she's leaking some milk prior to foaling, and that's where her colostrum's being wasted. The colostrum's made up until when they foal. Once they're foaled, they start to produce milk. So if they start losing that valuable colostrum before they foal, then there's far less there available for that foal to consume. So yeah, if that's the case, then you know, getting some frozen colostrum from another mare is an option. You know, keeping it for the next season, just pop it in the freezer and it keeps fine, or else, and tube feeding it with the mare's colostrum if the foal hasn't got up and got on the suck properly itself.
Yep.
So hopefully that makes sense. If not, give me a call and I'll talk to you about it further.
Absolutely, and that's the idea of these shows, is to try and get a few of these things out there. Brian Rossitia, I think it is. Do you think there could be...
Brian Rossiter.
Yep.
Would there be, certainly people jumping in too quick and pulling foals out, you know, before they're ready. It's certainly a possibility that you know, could trigger that. However, there's certainly plenty of cases where you see you know, unassisted, normal, you know, textbook time frame type foalings that still present like this. So yeah, still no hard and fast rule there, but yeah, definitely jumping in too early for the mares can not only be damaging to the mares, but can cause other problems as well.
Absolutely. Nick Hooper there saying thankful for the support of HRV as well as BARASTOC. I think we should go one further, Nick. There's a lot of people there that sponsor there. There's a rolling tile that goes through them all. People like Foresight Woodlands, Alabar. There's a heap of people that have put into this this series, and it's absolutely terrific. And it wouldn't have got off the ground without people putting their hand up and taking a punt on something different, Kath. And the show's evolved. It started one way with COVID-19 and it's probably ended a different way at the minute, but people still seem to enjoy it. And that's a couple of the other comments we got. Murphing, very informative. Thank you. Jared Maloney got in there. .G saying another great session as well. So we appreciate the feedback as well, and we love people asking questions. Maggie Smith, very formative as well. So we're definitely not finished with this platform. We've just got to try and get it going forward. But yeah, we're very appreciative of all the sponsors that get involved with us. That's an understatement to say the least. Must say one thing, Kath, too. I get into trouble from either you or Desiree. One of us always miss something. Facebook. Don't forget to go to the Harness Breeders Facebook site, follow and like it, because unfortunately they don't get to see every person that joins that comes through my site here. So watch it through there. I get the questions either way. It doesn't matter either way, but we need people to follow. So as going forward, this is the whole idea, is that we can get out to a bit far-reaching audience, a bigger audience. We're about to get to the busiest time for breeders, and yeah, if you really want to be up to date with everything, so make sure you go to the vicharnessbreeders.org.au website or the Victorian Harness Breeders Facebook page. Hit follow and stay up to date with everything that is going on from all of that. Joanne Anderson as well getting involved, and everyone's thanking Harness Breeders Victoria, so which is really, really good. But I think it's what you guys wanted to do. So it's sometimes when you get thanked for a lot of things, it sort of half gets missed, isn't it? Because it's actually what you're trying to achieve, which is good, I suppose. So anyway, yeah. So now we've got to do my draw. I don't come up for air very often.
It's my favourite part of the session.
Yeah, I've got to get one of these little ones out. So we've got to say a big thank you to Harassed Trotters. And as I said, $250 off any service fee on their roster, frozen or not. So I think that's a good initiative. There's no limits on who it's to. And as I said, they alluded to me today to join their, or go to their website after 3 o'clock tomorrow for some pretty exciting announcements. I know Nick Hooper's already announced that they were going to be standing Bold Eagle, so it won't be that. So I think there's a few other things coming up in that sort of space. So yeah, make sure you get involved there. I am alone. It's a little bit hard, but yeah, the lid's off. This is obviously the Kentucky Equine bucket. I'm not sure if Beckham, I think she really did want this back, you know, that I think she was sort of keen for it. Now there's been a request that I try and get this to someone in Victoria, and I've got 2 people stuck together. Sorry for the second person. And we've got Andrew Daniels from O'Brien, and it is Andrew Daniels, not Daniel Andrews. So he's a recently new member, I must admit. So well done to Andrew Daniels from Oberon. Oberon is where?
Oberon.
Is that in
New South Wales?
New South Wales again. Well, I think New South Wales breeders probably need to pull their socks up and do something, because yeah, we're getting plenty of members. I can say it, you guys will get into trouble, but I'm just hosting the show, and it just seems to be every week we're getting more and more New South Wales members. I think it's great. I think the fact that it is growing that way is absolutely terrific as well. So I think that's about all we've got, Kath. I'm not sure if you've got anything else, but we must say a big thank you to BARASTOC as well. Everything they do. Andrew Soper, he loves this photo. I think he thinks he looks pretty cool in it. I'm not sure, so I must say. But well done to him going there. Jenny Lewis is today's winner, so she'll be getting some stuff from Andrew. Was there anything else you had to say, Kath, or got most of it done?
No, all good for me. And if anyone has any suggestions for other seminars, just email Harness Breeders Victoria. And if they have any other questions about anything that in particular that I discussed, feel free to give us a call or get in touch. Otherwise, thank you very much, everyone. Absolutely, and thank you everyone for joining in. We'll be back at 4 o'clock next Sunday, as I said, with Sarah Gray, Dr. Sarah Gray from Harassed Trotter or Yabby Dam Farm. So stay tuned to that, and thank you everyone for joining us, and thank you very much, Kath. Kath, one thing you got to do for me, got to be quiet now because my ending goes and people will still hear us, so you're not allowed to talk, okay? Thank you very much, Dr. Kath McIntosh.